Hey, everybody, it's Matt Michaels here. And today I'm joined by a person who I think embodies the nickname the Prodigy, and that is Rok-C. How you doing?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Can't complain. It's been a very weird past year, obviously. And I know that, everyone's had different takes on COVID. Um, Before we get into wrestling and what you've been doing to continue establishing yourself and getting forward in the business during COVID, what was your go-to comfort?
Um, I think honestly being with my family,
Yeah.
because I live with I have three other sisters, and then my older sister has her baby, and then it's my mom and my dad. So it's pretty crazy. um, but yeah, prior to pandemic, we never really had too much time to like all spend time with each other because my mom has work, my dad's a firefighter and a
Wow.
paramedic. So
Wow.
he's always out. Yeah. And then my sisters, all of us had like extracurricular activities, so we never really had time to like actually spend time with each other. So I think like my comfort was really just like being able to spend way more time with each other and like play, like board games and all that fun stuff.
That's no, that's a great way to occupy your mind and your time so that you're not just bored. I mean,
Yeah.
good God, I could just imagine being in an apartment by yourself and just bouncing
Yeah.
off the walls.
I know how
Um,
some people did it.
yeah, right. With your family, uh, what was their reaction and their, I guess, support or non-support of you getting into wrestling? And when did you start looking at wrestling as something that you would like to do? Because you started young. You started training at 16. That's pretty
13.
30s.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So were they behind you the whole way?
Yeah, so my parents were actually big wrestling fans when they were younger. They didn't watch it too much like as they got older, but my uncle, he stayed like an avid wrestling fan. So whenever we would go over to his house, he'd have like the pay-per-view on and I just like sit there and watch it with him. But I've known I wanted to be a wrestler since I was like 10 years old. And people thought I was crazy. They're like, yeah, it's just a phase, you'll grow out of it. But my parents were always like 100% behind me. Um, I told them I was gonna be a vet by day and a wrestler by night. But I think I just stuck with the wrestler part. um, but yeah, they've always been super super supportive. I remember when I was younger, I actually came across Booker T's Reality of Wrestling School online.
Yeah.
Um, that's how serious I was about this. I was like looking up wrestling schools, and I called my parents over and I was like, look, like Booker T has a school in Texas. When I graduate high school, I'm going to move to Houston. I'm going to start training to be a wrestler. And they were like, okay, if that's your plan, like that's your plan. But I ended up getting trained way earlier than expected, which my parents were 100% behind. And yeah, I started training at Booker's when I was like 16, 17.
So when you started training at 13 and then you started at Booker's at 16, you had a 3-year period there. Was there anything that you learned during that period before you got to Booker's school that you had to relearn? Or, because sometimes from school to school it can vary, and sometimes you'll pick up bad habits from, one school, especially being so young. Was it more of an advantage when you were starting, or was there just certain things that you had to just kind of rework and realize, oh, hey, this is the real deal?
Yeah, definitely. I was lucky enough to have really good trainers when I first started. Their names are Johnny Angel and George Benavides. So they were so good with like teaching me the basics and the fundamentals and all of that. So I trained for about a year, and then I had my first match, but I always stayed local.
Yeah.
And it was always like against people that like they knew would keep me safe. And then I knew that like I could only do so much just staying local in like my small town. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to try and train at Booker's. So I did that, and uh honestly, I think that Booker's gets you ready for like TV.
Sure.
So obviously like I learned so much, kind of like fixed up uh the fundamentals I learned and the basics, and like cleaned everything up, and then also like learned how to use the cameras and wrestle for an actual like TV rather than just a few fans like around the ring.
Right.
So
With that adjustment and learning the aspects of that, because I think that's something that's very important. Because you can tell a story, and this relates to entertainment as well. There's one thing to be on television as compared to being in the movies. Like that's two different things you have to learn how to do. But then most actors will start by doing either stand-up comedy, plays. So they're used to having to adapt, and wrestling's the same way. When you started getting the chance to wrestle um, for a camera, did you find it was easier to keep up the moment, keep in that, just finding that little extra because of the fact that you're playing to the camera essentially as opposed to playing to the crowd, which would be first and foremost without any cameras around, obviously. Was that something that, when it started happening for you, did it click right away, or did it take a little bit of time for you? And are you still learning how to really adapt the matches to TV?
yeah, it definitely did not click right away. It was something that of course, I'm still learning. I feel like in any entertainment business, you never stop learning. There's so many aspects to wrestling that it's like you can be like at the top of the game, but you still have so much to learn.
Right.
So definitely like learning to work the cameras and all of that. It was pretty hard at first because there's so many like little details that you have to pay attention to like make sure that you're you're making yourself look good on TV and on camera.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've gotten way better at it. Still learning, but
Sure.
yeah, it was definitely something that I had to work on.
When you start getting your first matches with your affiliation with Booker T schools, when you first getting those matches in, what kind of feedback, like who is watching the matches to kind of guide you and give you that direction that you need, um, after you walk back in the curtain or go to class the next week? Who were the ones who helped cultivate that, the, I guess, the coaching? Who were some of the main influences on you?
So obviously Booker T, he's always back there. Like right after my match, I'll go up to him and be like, "Hey, what did you think?" And he'll give me all his feedback. Sharmell was such a big help, especially just with like facials and all of that good stuff. Another person, Gino Medina, he's assigned to MLW right now, but he's a trainer at Reality of Wrestling, and he's so good. And after all my matches too, I'll like go up to him and just ask him what he thinks. And he's very good at like pointing out the small things that like you did wrong, which is like so important because not many people have that eye. So definitely the three of them are like very big influences at reality wrestling, along with like all the other stars on the roster. I
Sure.
just love getting everybody's feedback, so I think that's like really important.
Speaking of Charmelle, what is it for you to have a female who has been in the business, been around the business? Booker and her have been married for so long too, that she can, you can talk to her as a woman in the industry. How important was that for you, before even we talk about Mission Pro, to have that kind of guidance, at your disposal? Because a lot of the wrestling schools, you don't find female influences, especially ones that have been on the major stage.
Yeah, so when I first started training, I was surrounded by all guys. So especially being so young, it was I felt very protected, but at the same time, it was like I didn't get that learning experience from like a woman.
Right.
And so when I went to reality of wrestling, that helped so much. Like I said, especially being really young, and I was traveling by myself and going to train by myself. So having Sharmell, and she's such a mom figure, like she's such a mom. So having her there to just, help me in the aspect of like wrestling, but also with just like life. Just having her there, and it just kind of making my experience there a little bit like more comfortable.
Sure. Um, at what point did you start? Were you 18 or 19 when you started going out to other organizations, or were you even younger than that?
So I was 16 when I went to Reality of Wrestling, and then when I turned 17, I started doing. I did an appearance for Shimmer. I wrestled for Rise. And then that's when I started. Like I was actually known as like the 17-year-old sensation for a while. So I was wrestling that across Texas. And that's kind of really what got people to like notice me.
Sure.
'Cause I really liked that moniker just because it was like, "Hey, look, like I'm pretty young, but I've been doing this for a while and I'm pretty good at this." So, yeah, and then it just kind of evolved into the Prodigy, and then after that, I just started going like across the country to wrestle.
um, what at what point did you first come across Thunder Rosa and Mission Pro? Is that more recent? Because they've really, she's cultivated this um, extremely cool place where you have just some of the best female wrestlers on the indies, just kind of you know gravitating to Mission Pro. How's that been for your experience, Ben?
So I actually knew Thunder Rosa before Mission Pro was like a big thing. She's always been very helpful with like the woman, even before the whole like speaking out movement and all of that. So she's always just like Charmelle. She's been like a mom figure to all the women. So I was actually a part of Mission Pro before it was a woman's promotion.
Sure.
So before that, it was just a regular promotion. It had just started up. I won my first championship there when I was 17. Yeah, and then it kind of evolved into this all women's promotion, which I think is so amazing. Just because it's like it's not just the wrestlers that are all women. Like it's the refs, it's the commentators, it's everyone backstage, it's like everything. We were the ones that like set up the ring and tore it down. So I don't know. I just think like Mission Pro is like a really good thing for all the women like across the country in wrestling. A very safe space.
Yeah, I think that's important, especially like you said, with speaking out, becoming such a big thing in the industry. And I know that you had um, your story of what happened with you and speaking out, was a great way to put that out there. And I'm so glad that, people got a chance. I go back, my experience in wrestling goes back to the early 2000s. And you want to talk about just absolutely a male dominant entity, even at UPW in Southern Cal, there were women there, and women like Lisa Marie, who was Victoria in WWE, and she was a standout. She was great, but she was only one of the few,
Hmm.
and it made it so difficult for, I think, it was just like you had to be one of the guys, and it
Yeah.
was just strange. It was strange to see with when you saw speaking out happen and you decided to come forward, which takes a lot of, you know, I mean, God bless you for being able to, to do it. Did you ever think, because it's a male dominant industry on the side of the promoters and the bookers, that speaking out might have repercussions on those women who came forward? As we saw Joey get his contract, Joey Ryan, for those listeners who don't know, his contract got terminated because of the speaking out movement, as did some other, wrestlers who got either terminated or kind of went into a little bit of an exile because of the movement. Do you ever think that there could be repercussions from the men in the industry who had the book, who had the promotions, who just wanted to just kind of shove it back as, punishment for doing something that was very important for the industry?
Yeah, definitely. And I think that it's not just like in the wrestling industry. I think that's just like anywhere for so long. And it's still happening. Women are so scared to speak up and speak out about certain things that happen to them because repercussions will happen, or because people won't believe them, or it's just a lot of things, honestly. So it definitely was scary to come forward. It took me a long time. It took me When I first saw speaking out happen, I didn't have like a good feeling at all. It was hard reading all of those stories,
Yeah.
hard. And it just made me so sick to my stomach and sad that like it was happening so much and people had no idea about it. So it did take me a while. I had to kind of like sit back and think about it. But honestly, I just had to think, like if I end up if this ends up backfiring on me because of whatever reason, then so be it. But I'm gonna be remembered as someone that spoke up for other younger little girls, so that
Yeah.
they wouldn't have to go through that. Because if I hadn't spoke up and I just would have let it slide, who knows how many other times it would have happened? Who knows how many other younger little girls that are getting into the business or will get into the business just like me, just because they wanted to be a woman's wrestler, not because they wanted to run into like crappy men
Yeah.
that do things like this. Like I was like,
Yeah.
no, like I'm going to speak up about this, even if it was one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life. But I had the support of my parents. They were right behind me through all of it. So yeah, it was a pretty hard experience, but just having my family there and knowing why I did it, it definitely helped me get through it.
Well, and it's a very interesting thing, because what's fascinating to me is that when you're, let's say, in Texas, Texas itself, you have your different communities of wrestling because it's such a big state, you know? So you have Houston, you have San Antonio, you have El Paso, you have all these different places, and then the smaller places as well. And to think what was going on to you was probably happening in at least one case in each of these different places is mind-boggling enough, let alone to think that if you just take what was happening in Texas and then just multiply it across the country, everyone was having similar experiences throughout the country. And you finally, through social media, got to read those stories and connect with each other and realize this was bigger than just what was happening to you. And I think that was the most important thing that came, is that it exposed the fact that the whole industry as a whole was allowing especially younger women to, be either harassed or bullied or whatever it was. And I'm so proud to see that it was the people who were your age that came together and got up the strength and said enough's enough. And that's really inspiring. And I hope to God that just us talking like this, other interviews you've done, other interviews that the other girls have done, that the women who are speaking out now, like you said, just give that awareness and that influence, not only to the younger women or, the younger girls who are training at that point, but also the parents, because I think that's something that gets lost when you talk about the younger students training. If I had a daughter and she went to training and she was so passionate and this was something she wanted to do so bad that she didn't know that what was being asked of her might be wrong, that would just have me on the edge. I would be so pissed off and probably going down there.
Yeah, especially because like how you said, obviously like the parents are just so being so supportive that it's
Yeah,
like my child is like chasing after her dreams, and they're not gonna they don't really like stop and think like these things can happen, which is like not their fault at all. So it's even like worse when you have these young girls and then you have these men trying to take advantage, not like, and then the parents are completely clueless, and it's just like it's so horrible.
yeah,
It's
yeah. Well, let's talk about the good aspects of the business. What was it like winning that first championship? And did you feel like, I shouldn't say you, but did, when you got backstage, when you see Thunder Rosa, could you see the pride that she had in trusting you with something like this?
well, actually, the championship was for another promotion, which was
Okay.
RWR. Yeah, so I won it there. But yeah, it was a pretty special moment, especially because that was like on my bucket list, was like winning a championship at 17. I don't know why, but it was. So being able to like win that was pretty cool. I'm sure like many people were very proud. So yeah, that was a very special moment.
Um, being in that it was your first belt, um, did you, did you get to like, because I would have probably have taken the belt, put it right next to me in my bed, you know, just like my pillow or something, what was it for you like for you to have a championship? Did you do anything special? Did you celebrate at all?
Yeah, so I was able to bring the championship home with me. My family, I feel like honestly, I feel like they were way more excited than I was. My grandpa, he's like
Oh,
super supportive also, and he just loves everything about what I'm doing. So, I remember I think it was Thanksgiving, I believe, and my family had came over and he was like, "Let me see the belt. Come on, where's the belt? Bring out the belt." And like my whole family's there, and I'm like bringing out the belt, like for everybody to see. um, but yeah, definitely my family was like way more excited.
it's such a different, to think that you could, take something like that and then the belt becomes the focus. It's like your
Right?
accomplishment, but here's the
They're
trophy.
like, yeah, let's see the belt.
Yeah. Um, so far, when you look at your matches that you've had and you look at your growth, is there anyone that you've wrestled with on numerous occasions now that you would consider someone who has helped you excel in the ring a little bit, or feel very comfortable in the ring with? Is there any names or of people that stand out?
Yeah, so two names actually came to mind when you asked me that. So Kylie Ray and Hyon. They're two people that are just like so freaking talented. I'm so sad to see Kylie Ray gone, but hopefully she comes back one day.
Yeah.
But yeah, Kylie was actually my first big match before I broke out onto the indie scene. So I was 16 when I wrestled her. It was here in Laredo. I was still local, so yeah, I had been wanting to wrestle her for a while. They ended up bringing her down, and she was just like, after that day, she just became like my number one fan, and she just helped me so much, especially because when I was younger, it was hard to kind of get seen and whatnot because of my age. Obviously, I was like very marginalized, and I even just like on the local shows, like they would like, cut back like my matches, or I would have a match on like a dark match, and then they would cut that, and like it was just pretty hard. So definitely like having her as like a mentor is definitely what she was for me. And then being able to like have her see me grow. I had like a couple of matches with her throughout the years that I was wrestling. So yeah, she's amazing wrestler, amazing person. um I hope she's doing well.
Yeah.
But Hyon as well, she's amazing. She's also someone that always helped me out when I was younger, and helped me out with wrestling life, everything. So
Yeah.
I actually won my first I fought not my first I won the Reality of Wrestling Diamonds champion against her. So that was pretty cool,
Yeah.
because it was kind of like a full circle moment. So, like I said, I did say that I would start my training at Reality Wrestling when I turned 18, and then I ended up winning the championship at 18, which is very mind-boggling. So yeah, that was a pretty cool moment, and then especially being able to have that match against her was just everything about it was super special.
Let me ask you, with that organization being, um, you know, being that you had basically gotten the chance to wrestle there, and you came in, you started training a little bit earlier there. So you got the experience to win the belt, or the Diamond Championship. What was it like in terms of the the 2 years, from starting to train to winning that? Was there an uptake in women who started training at the school, or did you see them starting to bring in more talent, women-wise as well? Basically, was there, let's say, a mini women's evolution within, Booker's company?
I think so. So before I got there, there was a couple of women that were there, but they don't wrestle anymore. When I got there, I believe it was like Jenna Lynn, Rachel Rose, Miranda Alize, Hyon. I think that's pretty much it. It's been like a pretty like small women's division.
Right.
AQA also. Um, I think it's kind of like evolved as I was champion. More people started coming in. We have Promise Braxton. We have Danny B. Um, So I know Maddie Rankowski and Vert Vixen made an appearance not too long ago. Yeah, I feel like it definitely has been evolving more since I actually started being on the shows.
Yeah. Because that's remarkable. Even here in Vegas, watching what was, like you could come up with 5, 6 names, and now you're seeing a lot more interest in not only, women who were about your age, but women who were, you know, kids who are 10, 11, 12 years old. They're really getting into it and they're really getting a chance to roll around in the ring.
Yeah.
What was it for you when you got the opportunity, you start doing this, you start training? What was the most difficult part for training, and did you have any fears in the ring? Because I know sometimes that first time that you're, going up to the top rope, the knees are kind of shaking, and it's like, okay, trying to find your balance is really fun.
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
yeah, what was it like for you in terms of, finding out what wrestling is really actually like for your body and for, your mindset, where you have to overcome these fears that you might have?
I think that the hardest part was probably like, sorry about my niece, she's crying a
Okay.
little bit. um, yeah, she just woke up from a nap. um, but I think the hardest part was just the mental part of wrestling. I don't think so much. I think I can like take a few hits and whatnot, so I think that part was like fine. I did like tumbling and stuff like that when I before I started wrestling. So the roles and like
Yeah.
all that seemed pretty easy. Um, but I think definitely like working on the mental part of wrestling, because wrestling is pretty tough. There's so much that goes into it. You have to be so like motivated and determined and all of that to just to be able to like make it one day, because none of that comes easy. So definitely being really young, I had to like work on that. So like I said, like having really good mentors like Sharmell and Kylie and Tessa Blanchard and Daga were also like very big mentors for me. And Tessa was one of the first people to tell me like you need to have like a very strong mind to be in this business. So like she gave me a lot of advice when it came to that, and it's advice that like really has stuck with me uh up until now, and I feel like it will continue to. So yeah, that's probably was the hardest part, just the mental aspect.
How comfortable were you in terms of doing promo work? Because I know a lot of, you know, people who get into it might be very athletic, but promo wise, they're as green could be because they've never had the opportunity.
Yeah.
And you're a good talker. You're just naturally a good talker. So I'm assuming the talking wasn't the hard part, but getting into the mindset of the character you're supposed to be portraying. What was that like for you?
So, yeah, talking was never really the hard part for me, because I did do a lot of theater when I was younger. I did a lot of plays. I think the hardest part for me was like improv, because I was so used to just like reading off of a script and learning lines that just like being thrown in front of a camera and then being like, okay, what you got? Like, go ahead, start talking, was like, um, uh, uh.
Yeah.
so I definitely have like uh worked a lot on promos and I've gotten way better at them. But when I first started, I was not so good at that. I was like, give
Um,
me a script and I got you, but
well, with that, your personality and your youth lend itself to, naturally cast you as a baby face. Um, you know, and any talent person in any entertainment business would look at you, listen to you, and immediately go, "Oh my God, she's the girl next door." She's, all the things you could do with just that baby face, that good guy persona. For you, would you like to unleash that heel side more and get a chance to play, the bad person? I mean, is that something that, you could see yourself doing in the future?
I could see myself doing that, especially because certain roles that I've had to play, I can definitely play into a lot of different roles. So, yeah, I feel like the only people that have seen like the mean side of me is probably my sisters. They really take that out of you. But yeah, I honestly would be up for it. I would definitely love to like kind of tune into more of like my heel side.
Well, and it's fascinating you said that, because I think a lot of times when, younger people in entertainment are trying to find, how to be a bad guy, right? And you just take it sometimes just to that level of just like, I'm bad, and it just doesn't translate. But saying something that you just said, drawing on something like my sisters are the only ones who have really seen like that. That's great, because you know that you can take that and just amp that up, 5 times, 10 times,
Yep.
got your heel side. It's just, I think that's so funny that people miss that. Like in your everyday life, you can find aspects that are going to translate to whether it be good guy or bad guy. You can use it as a wrestler. And I think that's
For
fabulous that you
sure.
said that. That's awesome. Um, speaking of your sisters, were you guys competitive growing up, and was that something that ever drove you?
um Not really, because we all had like our own thing. My sister had dancing, my other sister had cheerleading, I had wrestling. So all very diverse. So yeah, we never really were like competitive. We had nothing to be competitive about.
Sure.
Um just normal sister things that we were like kind of like get out of my room, you're being annoying. But yeah, never competitive in like that aspect.
Um, and for you, when you look at going across the country and kind of, branching your brand out, I know here in February, and let me just make sure I've got the, okay, so 13th of February, you're going to be wrestling for GCW,
Yes.
which is not the GCW that everyone thinks of right away,
Yeah,
but
I
it's
know.
Generation Championship Wrestling. Who we've had a little good working relationship with them. Um, what is it for you to get a chance for some of these companies across the country? Getting a chance to wrestle some of the women that you might not have wrestled.
I'm excited. I've been wanting to wrestle in Florida for a really long time. And I've had my eye on Sky Blue for a while. I think that she is very talented.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty excited to get in the ring with her and just see what we can do in there. But yeah, I'm really excited.
And it's interesting because I think that if the two of you were in the same company, it would be easy to almost put the two of you either together as a tag team or faux pas sisters or cousins or something, because
Someone
you got,
said that, and I was like, I would definitely tag team with her.
I mean, that would be awesome.
I just gotta be her first, and then I'll be like, okay, I'll tag team with you now.
Yeah. Um, and speaking of like women that you would like to either wrestle against, compete against, or work with in essentially tag team or some kind of program, are there any people that stand out on top of your dream list?
Yeah. There's a couple of people that I really want to wrestle. Um, I think Blair Onyx from the Midwest. I think she's awesome. I think everything about her character and just she's such a good wrestler. I would definitely love to step in the ring with her. Um, I did really want to wrestle Elena Black, but I'm so proud of her. She's on
Yeah.
NXT now, so super happy for her. Maybe one day we will step in the ring together. Who else? Billy Starks. She's
Yeah.
15 years old and she's way better than I was when I was 15. So I'm actually going to wrestle her in Texas next weekend. So January 30th, I have a match against her at New Texas Pro. So I'm super, super, super excited about that.
And isn't that funny that you look at someone like that, you get a chance to wrestle her, and you're coming in as the old vet. Like she's the kid and you're the old vet at your age. I love that. I love the fact that there's more opportunity now to, embrace the fact that, hey, even though you're younger, you still can learn and do things and be successful, which sets you up. If you think about, if you start, a lot of people start at 19ish, then you have that first, it takes about 5 years to kind of get yourself established, get yourself off the ground. And by the time you do that, now you're in the mid 20s. If you start training when you're, 10, 12, 13, 15, and you get that in-ring experience and get to have matches at the age of 15, 16, it's crazy. And you're, an example of, how that's worked here in Las Vegas. Sandra Moon is an example of someone who was a student and who's come a long way and, is, scraping at the edge here of 21 now. It's like, it's so encouraging to see. Do you think that using what you know and being able to be in the ring with a younger person and you being the ring general at that point, does that put a lot of responsibility on you? Or do you still look at it as like, you know what, I'll just go out there, I'll do my job, I'll have fun with it. Um, what is your feelings on that mix? Because it is unique that at such a young age you are, in situations going to be a ring general.
I think there definitely is like a sense of like big responsibility. But I also do I just always remember like I'm the prodigy, I'm Rok-C, I got this. So yeah, definitely like having like that confidence in the back of my mind just helps me out in every match. But I definitely think that with any opponent you can learn. So I know that I'll be learning like so much from Billy as well.
Yeah. Um, Outside of wrestling, is there something that sticks out as, something that is one of your favorite things to do? Let's say it's a weekend night, you're off, you're not wrestling. What would we find you doing, um, you know, in your hometown, on a weekend night?
Hmm. Probably. I am a very like family person, so probably spending time with my family. Um, my so my grandpa, he actually had a band. I don't know if he still has it, but he had a band. My mom was the lead singer, and yeah, and my aunt, she also sings. So every time we go to my grandparents' house, they always have like karaoke set up. So all of us are just singing karaoke. I really like to sing. I think it like runs in the family.
Sure.
But that's something people don't know about me. I love singing. So yeah, I'd probably just like doing some karaoke with my family.
What's your go-to song?
Ah, I don't know. I always like choose like tons of different songs. The last time I remember me and my aunt were singing Don't Stop Believing. So yeah, that one's a pretty fun song.
My go-to, and it's funny because I always got looked at first really strangely, and by the end of the song, it was like, holy crap, that was awesome. Is Baby One More Time.
Oh, really?
You
That
never, yeah, you'd never think to, see a guy singing that song. And, I just, you start, get the audience curious. You start really soft and low. And then you go into rock vibrato and it's just like off the button. Yeah, it's fun. Singing is one of the coolest, I think, aspects for any of us who are entertainers and have been doing it since you're a kid.
Yeah, for sure.
Especially like you said, getting a chance to act, perform, having a family members that are in a band together on top of it is just, you can't deny that that's amazing. If Let me ask you this: if you weren't able to wrestle, if it was something, circumstances that you never got a chance to be a wrestler, would singing and acting be your backup plan for, let's say, a fulfilling entertainment career? And what would, like, an everyday job, would it still be vet? Would you be, you know
So I actually I thought about a vet for a while, and then I was like, "Whew, I cannot put animals to sleep. I can't do it. I can't." So yeah,
yeah,
I probably would not be able to become a vet. Um I love writing. I've always loved writing. So even like uh once a wrestling is done or whatever, I definitely would love to like write a book about like my life and my journey and everything. Maybe become an editor. I'm actually going to college for that. So but yeah, singing and acting, like I've always just been so like in awe of like the entertainment business. So yeah, acting, I fell in love with it. Singing, I fell in love with it. So who knows? Maybe I'll be in a movie one day. Maybe I'll come out with an album one day.
well, you know what, the coolest thing about that is that nowadays it's possible. Back when I started acting, and it was VHS tapes, black and white headshots, and having to literally sit there during the day, stapling your resume and your headshot together, filling an envelope, setting it off, and then having it come back to you in 3 days saying, return, not an address anymore. And it was just, it was a struggle. Now it's like, it's so cool because you could you could build your popularity in wrestling, you could build your fan base, and then you can be in a movie, you can have an album. That's so inspiring. I love the idea of, at your age, even considering writing a book. That's phenomenal, because there's let's say at 25, 26, you get into your later 20s, and you have, let's say, a little bit of a reputation and name. What a cool thing to be able to write something that could even just be smaller, but just to relate to those young women, you know,
Yes.
that it's possible. And here's my story: because as a kid, I remember going into the library as a first grader, second grader, and it was always books I gravitated towards were books that were biographies of either athletes or actors, and that's what I ate up. And I think that,
Mhm.
you know, to know at that age, I would look at guys who were not that much older than you in reality, a decade older, but who had started, doing stuff as a kid essentially, and cultivated into the skill. Um, and by no means do we think your career is over. It's so funny that you're such a veteran, yet you're so on the cusp of huge, bigger, better things. Would you say that your goal is it being with a company like the WWE, NXT, or AEW or Impact? Where do you see yourself trying to fit in within the next few years?
So honestly, I want to wrestle everywhere. Um, I've always wanted to. So I want to go to Impact. Then I want to go to Ring of Honor. I want to go to AEW. I want to go to WWE. I want to wrestle for AAA. Like I want to wrestle everywhere, because whether it be like um a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, or long down the road, I just want to like I really want to leave like a mark on the wrestling scene. I don't want to just like get thrown into a company and then just like be forgotten about. Like I want to like be someone in wrestling. So definitely like just everywhere.
Well, on that note, I'm going to basically wrap up here on that beautiful idea of it shows your passion and love for it with that answer. Like fuck it, I don't care if it's if it's Impact or it's this or that. I just want to get out there and make an impact on the industry and on the fans remembering me. I love that. And it says a lot. Again, I'm very much, and all the guys here at the Vegas Badboyz are very much behind what you're doing, and are so happy to see that you're getting these opportunities. And I can't wait, to check back with you in a year or so, and just
Yeah, definitely. We're gonna have to do some karaoke sometime.
oh, no, it wouldn't that be just so nice if things just kind of got back to normal and we could, get a chance to go out to karaoke bars again because I'm itching. But that would be awesome. Maybe we'll talk. We can set something up and maybe do a little special thing where where we could maybe choose a couple songs or um, yeah, figure something out. But I love it. I love what you're doing. Keep smiling too, man, because you've got the future in front of you, and your attitude and your enthusiasm just makes it so much more contagious that it's like, oh man, at my age at 45, I'm like, I know I've got a bad neck, I know I've got a bad back, bad knees, but listening to you makes me want to get back in the ring again.
You could
It
do
just
it. Do
oh,
it.
I don't know, man. My my neck at this point, I take one bump and I'll be like, "Hey, we're good, we're good." I remember when I was 25 and doing it, man, my body could bounce back the next day. You feel good. It's like but having 20 some odd years of ring rust,
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, exactly. But I'm so glad we got a chance to talk with you. For fans or people who might not know you, what are your social media handles where they can follow you and see some of your work at?
So my Facebook is Rok-C, that's ROK-C. My Twitter is the Rok-C _, and my Instagram is _Rok-C. And I also have a pro wrestling tees. So it'll be prowrestlingtees.com/the real Rok-C. And I have 2 shirts there that you can go ahead and buy.
And that Prodigy shirt is pretty awesome.
Yeah, I love it.
I thought that design's just really cool. It's not gaudy. Sometimes you see designs and it's like, what were you thinking, guys? Uh, that shirt just is simple. It's awesome. So please, if you guys are fans of Rok-C, or if you are just getting to know her now, please support her. Go to the Wrestling Tees store, grab a Prodigy shirt. And then also, if people ask you, what does Prodigy mean? Then you can explain a little bit of who Rok-C is and grow her fan base as well. So I encourage everyone to do that. Please, again, thank you for joining us, Rok-C. And until next time, everyone, we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.